Welcome to my channel and welcome to my website. My name is Daryl and this is Programming in Any Language. The website is www.black-duck.com. It's where you'll find all my videos organized in logical order. Okay, let's put this list application together. The Anything database, the list version, is going to be very similar to the SpeedTrack version of this application. And that was way before we knew anything about lists and arrays for that matter. We used a list box. And even that was something new for most of you, especially if you're starting out. The application looked something like this. There was a list box, a text entry area, a count of records, and a bunch of buttons that allow the user to add, edit, delete, load, save, and so on. All those buttons were separate functions, and the top-down design looked something like this. The buttons had all the work to do. In many cases, methods were employed as they could be used by several of the buttons. There was no navigation employed since the list box itself allowed the user to move up and down the data at will. The list version of this Anything database looks cleaner, as you can see. The list box is gone and is replaced by a series of navigation buttons. The data entry area is still there. And all the usual buttons are present with the addition of the search button. You also might notice that in addition to the record count, there is also an indicator that displays the index of the current active record. If we look at the top-down design of this application, you'll notice that it's a little more complex. Search has been added, and there's also the addition of the navigation buttons. Much of the way this application works, however, is very similar to the list box version. This next series of videos builds on this application. What's interesting is how the search is implemented. Turns out it's a very simple addition. Navigation is also straightforward and it's very similar to how actual databases are navigated. In fact, back in my consulting days, I used this same application technique with virtually all of my clients. Well, seeing how it is done is how we learn. So let's get to it. Okay, let's put this Anything database, the list version, into play here. I'm going to start out by creating the form. So a number of little things to do on this thing. We're going to start with let's get the toolbox out real quickly. And let's put a label on this thing. And here it is. And we're simply going to give it a title and call it the Anything database list version. And we'll set that font to say a 14. And we'll make it a color. Red will be fine. And we'll take it and center it on the form. Oh, I may want to do that later because I might end up changing the size of this thing. We put all the pieces together. We're going to want something to actually display this now. We're going to be creating, let's put another label out there. This label is going to be called the data entry area. These are all labels that are not going to be used in code. And this guy will be, let's make him a 10. We'll make that a good standard size here. And we'll make it bold as well. We'll take off the auto size property off of this thing and move it out. So we want to put the text in the middle. Doesn't matter too much for the first title. We're going to want this one probably down here someplace. And then we're going to have a text area where we're going to actually enter things. And we're going to use a text box for that. That's going to go probably over here. We're probably going to make it as wide as the form. And we're going to make it the same size as this label here. Make same size on the height and the width. No, the height. That's fine. And let's make sure our text is going to be falling in the right spot here. Well, we can let it assign to the left because it's going to be using a text box piece anyway. So we're fine there. We do want to change our font. And this too would be a 10 and bold. And that looks good right now. Well, we've set up buttons on the bottom here. Let's go ahead and put those in place. If you remember what we're doing, we're actually going to be using the same thing that we have here, where you're going to be putting these pieces like this together. The Anything database, the title, the buttons on the bottom, add, edit, search, delete, clear, load, save, and exit. And then the navigation buttons here, a data entry area right in here, and then something that's going to tell us the record count and the actual index we're sitting on when we're actually working with this thing. So let's go ahead and put a button on place right here. We're going to grab this button. I'm just going to put it here for now. I'm going to make this the add button. Actually, let's make it the load button because it's going to be, I think the most words are being used in search or load, one of those. So let's go ahead and make this load. I want to get this thing to be a certain size. And I want it to be bold as well. And I probably want this thing to be a 10. And now let's check it and see if we can't size this thing a little bit. Looks like we're going to be right around there on our width. So we got a width of 52 and 30. Probably make it 50 for the height. Width 52. Let's try 50, see if that works. No, it doesn't. So we're going to keep it at 52. We may even have to expand it a little bit later if we look at this. This looks okay right now. Let's go ahead and make a copy of this. In fact, I'll make 2 copies of it because we got 2 other long ones here. That would be save, if you can call 4-letter words long, and search, we'll call this SRCH. And that seems to work too. Okay, this is good. Great. Need an exit button. And after that, we just need a bunch of smaller ones. So we need add, edit, delete, clear. We need update. Control C. Let's just put a bunch down there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we're going to want an add. We're going to want an edit. We're going to want a delete. We're going to want a clear. We're also going to want a cancel and an update. Good. The cancel and the update will be invisible because they're going to be sitting behind the buttons. I'm just going to put these guys over here right now. We're going to kind of line these up the way I'd like them. I like this, the add and the edit, and then a search down here. And then a delete and a clear. A delete, clear. A load and a save. Load, save, and the exit. And let's try and put all these guys together now by simply, let's find what we want. It looks best here. This one looks okay. Make that the starter. Copy all these guys and kind of put them there. Let's align their tops. And let's make the horizontal spacing equal. And let's kind of set them on the form. And that doesn't look too bad. Okay, that looks really good. We're going to want the, I'm going to leave the update and the cancel right here. We're going to put them behind the edit and search later. But right now, we're going to make them even right now. Format, align, tops. We're going to align this thing up so it's align their lefts. Okay, that's pretty good. They're looking just fine there. The other thing I want to do, I want to be able to take this label right here and place it down twice. We're going to put down a record count. And this is going to be a current record index. And we're going to need to make that a little bigger. So we're going to make the auto size in this thing true. Same thing with this thing. Same with this thing. That way it'll fit the whole word in there. This we do want centered in the form. So it gets a little tighter. It'll be under that a little bit, but that's okay. The other thing we want to do is we want to put in 2 labels over here into this section right here. So we're going to create a label, which is going to go right here. This will have the auto size off, and it will have a border style, a fixed single, and we'll give it a name of label worker count. And slide this over a little bit. And we also want to create the font on this thing. We're pretty much standardizing with 10 and with bold. And we can make it a little smaller because we're just going to hold a number in here. And we can get rid of the data that's in there. Actually, first of all, we do that, though we want to be able to align it to the center. And then we'll take that out. And we'll make a copy of this guy. And this one will be LBL current record. And that puts that in pretty good shape. I'm not sure where I'm going to have these things. We're going to kind of align it right now like this. We'll worry about that later. But what I have to do now is make sure we get a label on this thing. The text box is going to be called text input, TXT input. And we're going to label all these guys. Now let's go ahead and do the update right away, first of all. So this is going to be button update, BTN update. This is going to be button cancel. This will be button add, BTN ADD, button edit, button search, button delete, button clear, button load, button save, and button exit. And that's all we need to. Now, what we need to do is we need to actually create the navigation buttons we're going to be using for the database. Because inside this text box, this is where we're going to be able to go through the list and display whatever current record we're sitting on in this particular area right here. It's also going to be used for input and editing or whatever else we need. So we're going to need a button up here. So I'm going to grab this button, and we're going to size this button to be a nice square, say 40 by 40. Now, what we want to do is we don't care what's inside there. That labeling on here is going to be gone anyway, so we're not going to actually have this in here. Button 1 is not going to show up. It's going to be blank. But we are going to put a graphic in here, so we're going to have to do that. So what we need to do is we need to actually get a graphic and make it happen. So we have to think of where we might find some arrows. And one of the places we could find arrows is in, I use a graphics program called Snagit. And I can grab that thing and actually make it happen, and I'll do that. Let's go out to the internet and look for arrows. And just do a search on that. Look for images, and bang, we find some arrows. And this is a decent one right here. It's a big one. Let's find what we can actually grab so we can make the right size. Find something a little squarer maybe. Oh, this isn't bad right here. This would be fairly nice. Let's go ahead and grab that. So I'm going to grab my graphics program. It looks kind of square. I'm going to try and even it off. It's 47 by 145. I'm going to make it just, there it is. Got it. So it ended up giving me a picture that looks like this. And I want to size this thing now. I don't want it 145. I don't want it to be 40 by 40. So I'm going to go down in here and I'm going to actually change that to 40. Depending on what kind of graphics picture you actually use, you'll have this. Now I've got that thing sitting here. I'm going to save this. File, Save As. And we're going to call this, we need to navigate to the area that I've got this thing in, which I believe is sitting in arrays. And we're using this as the list application in the sandbox area. This is a fine place to put it. We'll call this forward, FWD, as our label name. We got it now. Now I want to take this particular piece and I'm going to rotate it. Image, here it is, image. Here's what what you do is you go to your image now and you go ahead and rotate it. So I'm going to rotate it clockwise. Now it's pointing down. So this will be the end. I'm going to save this guy as, save as, end. Now I'm going to rotate it again, clockwise, backwards, or back. So file, save this as, I'll call it BAK. Save, and we'll do it one more time. Image, rotate, clockwise, and then we'll call this top. TOP. We don't need this anymore. Discard the changes. We now can take this particular item we've got here and go ahead and apply an image to it. So what I'm going to do is go to the image area and use the ellipses here and import a local resource, which is going to be located right here. This happens to be our guy. We'll make this one the top.
bring it out and say OK to it, and it pops in there. That's super right now. Now all we need to do is copy this guy several more times and place it on here somehow so it looks good. So I'm going to use this and kind of approximate where they go. And let's see how close we are. Get this out of the way. It looks like we can go tighter here. And this one can go tighter. And maybe even up. This one actually down one. And let's go in one. This one looks about right. So let's go ahead and line our tops. I did adjust that one slightly. This looks fine the way it is right now. So let's go ahead and format, align lefts. Just a little bit. They look pretty good. So file save on this. Now let's put the rest of the graphics in. We've got this one is called button top. BTN top. Now I want to create a button forward here. I'll call this one button forward. BTN FWD, and then give it the new graphic. So our image is going to change to the forward button. Okay on that. This is going to be button bottom or button end. As long as we're in the graphic piece, we'll just grab that right away. There's our end. Give it a name. BTN END. And then we'll finally go to this guy and make this button back. BTN BAK. And go to its graphic. The image. Now these all become part of the process. You don't really need those graphics anymore because they're pulled into the system. So we've got them sitting all in here right now, and our graphics are looking good. We named this, I believe. We're going to check all our naming conventions. I think we're just about done here. Label record. Okay, we've got this thing as text input. Update and cancel. Looks good. And we got add, edit, search, delete, clear, load, save, and exit. We don't need anything else that I can think of. It looks like we're good. So let's go ahead and do a file save. Do a test to make sure our form looks okay. And it does. The buttons don't do anything yet, but they're there. Okay, we got our two labels here. We got a text box so we can actually type things in if we wanted to. So we're looking fine there. So we're set to program this thing and actually make it all work. So let's do that next. We still need a toolbox for two little objects we're going to have. If you remember, we're going to be navigating with this thing using a load and save. We're going to be using, instead of hard coding the name into the program, we're going to allow the user to create the name himself or herself and actually create many different applications, many different text box if they need to. So we're going to need the open file dialog and save file dialog box. And remember, those are container controls. So we're going to go ahead and close the common control up and go down where it has dialogs. Our dialog is saying right here, we want the open file dialog and we want the save file dialog. Remember, they come up down here. We're going to call this thing open file. Make that work. That's all we need to do with this thing. And this one's going to be called save file. So that puts that in place now. So that's all working. Do a file save all. Again, we'll do a little quick look here and see what we got. And we're looking good. The database application looks fine. Looks like it's going to work just great. So we'll close that thing off. And now we're actually ready to program. So I'm going to close off my toolbox. I won't need that anymore. So we've got our full access to this right away and can look at that. So the thing I want to do first is I'm going to go ahead and program the exit button. That's the easiest thing to do. So we'll go ahead and just pop this in here and we'll say / close file. And this will be this.close. And that closes the file. That's done. The next thing I want to do is I want to get my global area ready. We're going to put our global area right up under the form itself. So right up in here, we're going to go ahead and create our global area. Let's give it a little title. And I'm going to put a couple things in. I'm going to put an int for int record count. I want to save the number of records in the list. Now, there's a count property in the list that's always going to give us that, so we'll have that handy, but it's nice to bring it into a variable so I can go ahead and keep that in that variable, be able to check that variable without going in and doing the list record count type thing. And I can also display this thing, so this will be our count of it. We're also going to create something called int current record, and we're going to right away create a -1 in this thing. And the reason we're doing that is when our list is empty, we want it to display at any search a -1 if we didn't find a record. If we have something in there, it's going to have the index of that record that's in there. So right now with an empty database or an empty file, -1, it should be what we get. So we're going to start out with there and we'll leave that set. So this is going to hold the index of the current record. And there is no current record, so -1 fits. And then we're going to go ahead and create our list. So we'll type in list, and we'll make it a string. And we're going to call it lst stuff. We'll keep our stuff in there. Equal new list. Yeah, new list string. And give it a bracket. Yeah, we got a space right in here. There we go. List string. And we're looking good, and we're going to call this thing sets up string list. That's all. That's all we need to do with this. So where do we go next? Well, we want to go to our form load. So I'm going to go to my form here, and I'm going to create a form load event by double-clicking on the form itself. It gives us our form load. And what do we want to do with the form load? When we start the thing up, we want to determine the number of records in the list box and display. And we're going to simply display record count. Call display record routine. I'm setting this up as a method because we're going to be using this in a number of other places as well when we need to. So that actually this makes a good thing. We can actually right away code this. So we're going to say private void display record count. Give us our braces. And the thing we want to do with the record count is we want the int record count to be equal to lst stuff.count. So this grabs the count from the list box, which always knows how many it's actually got. So this pull list count. We also want to say lbl record count dot text is equal to in record count to string. And finally, our lbl current record dot text is going to be equal to current record to string. Display current record position. And we have none, so initially, so we'll have nothing there. So that takes care of our display record count. Do a file save on this. Let's see if our program still works. We don't have any errors at this point in time, so we should be good. So I can do a start here. And right away, this is great. It's showing us that we have no records in the database, and our current record is a -1, so we have nothing there. None of these guys work except for the exit button. The navigation buttons don't work yet, but they're there. They function. And I can actually do an exit and get out. So that takes care of that. We probably want to code the add button next. So we'll go to the add. And that requires we're going to have something in here. And we'll need to mess with the tabs too so they work right. So we're going to go ahead and code the add button by double clicking on it. And we'll say that add text box entry to the list box. Update the count. Clear text box. And set the focus. Whole bunch of stuff. And we do that by saying that lsstuff.add txt input.text is all we really need to do to add the text box to the list. The rest is cleanup. We want to display record count. Oops, we forgot our double brackets in here. We also want to set focus, call a set focus routine, which we haven't developed yet. What's that going to do? It's going to call set focus routine. Let's leave it at that for now. We're going to be playing with the buttons and which ones should be showing or not. But let's not worry about that at this point in time. So we're just going to leave the set focus there and do that. Let's program the set focus real quickly. We'll pop that in right in here, and we'll say private void set focus. And what do we want to do with that? We want to say a text input dot focus. Now text.text is equal to, we're going to clear off what's on the text box, and we're going to say text input dot focus, which is going to position the user there. And that's all we need. So let's go ahead and do a file save all, and let's see if this thing works. Okay, we can go ahead and let's put Daffy Duck in here and see what happens when I hit add. When I hit add, this goes up to 1. It does not change the current record index if you don't have an active record we're actually working with right now. So we're not looking at the index. So this is fine. Let's put in Tweety Bird. Do an add. Our second record is in place with 2 records in there. Record 0, record 1. Again, the current record index is still -1, and we can add another one now, Elmer Fudd. Add that, and the three records are in there. We can't save this yet, so it's going to blow away as soon as we go away, but we have 3 records inside our list, or our single dimension array, and we can, once we create the navigation buttons on here, we could actually go step through this thing and take a look. That might be what we actually do next.
Obviously, I didn't need to use graphics for those navigation buttons, but by doing so, I think it gives the user more direction on how they're actually used. We'll see even more when we actually code those buttons. You can consider the building of the form to be the foundation to building a good application. Getting that design right before you start coding will make the coding go a lot smoother. Well, I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to use the website for easy access to all my videos. If you get a chance, please subscribe. That way, you'll be notified when something new is available. We'll see you in the next video. Take care.